Captain Novak straightened her uniform and tapped the ship-wide comm. All hands to battle stations. This is not a drill. Throughout the Thunderchild, emergency lighting bathed corridors in a deep red glow as crew members raced to their posts. The ship had ventured farther from Earth-controlled space than any military vessel before, charting the border regions beyond the Arcturus expansion. "Damage report," Novak demanded, her voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through her system. Lieutenant Commander Jackson's fingers danced across his console. "Scout 1 is disabled, but not destroyed. The others are retreating to approximately 500,000 kilometers. Their weapons capabilities: unknown, Captain. Their technology signatures don't match anything in our database." Chief Engineer Kazan's voice crackled over the comm. "Captain, those scanner beams did something to our systems. Power fluctuations in the lower decks. It's like they were trying to read our ship's quantum architecture." Novak's expression darkened. During the Proxima conflict, enemy forces had used similar techniques to remotely disable Earth vessels before boarding them. She wouldn't let that happen here, billions of kilometers from home. "Deploy countermeasures. Rotate shield frequencies on a random pattern. And get me everything you can on their communications." On the main view screen, the disabled alien vessel tumbled slowly against the star field. Its design was elegant and symmetrical, sleek curves of silver-blue metal that seemed to flow rather than connect. Beautiful, but now potentially deadly. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies, Captain," Communications Officer Chen reported. "Our translation matrix is struggling, but they appear to be calling for reinforcements." "How many ships inbound?" Chen's face paled. "At least 27 distinct signatures detected. Arrival estimated in under 15 minutes. The bridge fell silent. The Thunderchild was a formidable vessel by Earth standards, the pride of the United Earth Space Force, but those odds were beyond challenging. Science Officer Patel broke the silence. "Captain, I'm analyzing their biology from visual data. The species we're seeing has a hexapod structure, exoskeletal features, and what appears to be compound visual organs. Their movements suggest they evolved in higher gravity than Earth." "Tactical significance?" Novak asked, already formulating contingencies. "Their reaction time might be faster due to their nervous system structure, but they may not handle sustained G-forces as well as humans." Novak nodded, a plan forming. "Tactical, prepare a full electronic warfare package. If they're calling friends, they clearly rely on communication. Let's give them something to talk about." Lieutenant Zhang allowed herself a small smile. "Package ready, Captain, awaiting your order." Outside, the disabled scout suddenly lit up with energy readings. Emergency systems coming online. "Captain," Jackson warned, "the scout is powering weapons." Novak didn't hesitate. "Launch the package. All ahead full. Get us out of their immediate sensor range, but maintain distance within this system. If they want to meet humanity, let's make it on our terms." The Thunderchild's engines flared brilliant blue as the ship accelerated away, leaving behind a cloud of electronic countermeasures that would scramble sensors and communications throughout the region. As they pulled away, the ship's sensors captured images of more alien vessels warping into the area, larger, more angular, and bristling with what could only be weapon emplacements. In the coming hours, the Varangian Collective would experience something entirely new to their civilization: the unpredictable, adaptive nature of human warfare. And Captain Elena Novak, now thrust into the role of humanity's unwitting first contact specialist, would need every trick in the book to ensure her ship and crew survived long enough to find a peaceful resolution, if one was even possible. Captain Novak studied the holographic display where HFY, the ship's advanced tactical AA, had mapped the collective's military response patterns. Red icons representing enemy vessels moved in precise, predictable formations, almost like a choreographed dance rather than adaptive military tactics. They always maintain the same distance between ships, Jackson observed, circling his finger around one cluster, even when it creates tactical disadvantages. It's like they're following a playbook without understanding the underlying principles, Novak mused. She turned to Science Officer Patel. What else have we learned about their biology? Patel brought up comparative physiological scans. Their neurological structure suggests highly specialized thinking patterns, excellent for complex calculations and group coordination, but potentially lacking in creative problem-solving under pressure. Lieutenant Zhang added, their weapon systems are actually superior to ours in raw power, but their targeting algorithms are simplistic. They're designed to hit large, slow-moving vessels. Just like their own, Novak concluded. The briefing was interrupted as Communications Officer Chen straightened suddenly at her station. Captain, I've decoded more of their transmissions. They're calling an emergency session of something called the High Council. They think we're an advanced scout for a human invasion fleet. This revelation hung in the air for a moment before Chief Engineer Kazan chuckled darkly. One ship, and they think we're an invasion force. Either they're extremely cautious or they've never faced a serious military threat, Novak finished. She paced the bridge, mind racing through the tactical implications. What if their entire civilization has evolved without the constant warfare that shaped human history? No world wars, no Cold War, no colonial conflicts. Their technology would develop along different lines, Jackson theorized, focusing on comfort, efficiency, scientific advancement. But not warfare, Novak said. Not the brutal calculus of killing and surviving that humans had to master. She turned to the navigation station. Athena, project optimal routes through collective territory that would maximize our intelligence gathering while minimizing detection probability. The AI displayed 3 potential paths through enemy space, each threading between patrol routes and sensor arrays like a needle through fabric. This changes our approach, Novak told her officers. We're not just trying to escape or establish peaceful contact anymore. We're gathering intelligence that could be vital if the collective decides humanity is a threat based on this one encounter. We're deep in their territory, outgunned and alone, Jackson reminded her. Conventional wisdom says we should retreat to Earth's space. Novak's lips curved into a slight smile. When has humanity ever followed conventional wisdom, Commander? The collective clearly doesn't understand how we think or how we fight. That's our advantage. She tapped the central route on the holographic display. We'll take this path toward their central communications hub in the Cygnus sector. If we can access their primary data networks, we'll learn more in hours than we could in months of negotiation. Engineer Kazanan raised an eyebrow. That's assuming they don't catch us first. Oh, they'll detect us occasionally, Novak acknowledged. But each encounter will provide more data on their capabilities and responses. She looked around at her crew, seeing determination replace uncertainty in their eyes. They may have more ships and bigger guns, but we have something they don't: unpredictability. As the Thunderchild altered course toward the heart of collective space, HFY calculated their survival probability at 27.3%. Novak ordered the AA not to share this figure with the crew. Some kinds of knowledge were burdens rather than advantages, and humans had always defied statistical probabilities anyway. It was, after all, what made humans the most dangerous species in any conflict. They simply refused to accept unfavorable odds as the final word. Admiral Krelnox watched with mounting frustration as tactical displays showed the human vessel somehow slipping through the closing net of his ships. His exoskeleton clicked softly as he tapped clawed appendages against the command console. "Impossible," he muttered. "They're anticipating our formation changes before we execute them." His executive officer, Sub-Commander Vrel, maintained a respectful distance. "Admiral, perhaps they intercepted our tactical communications." "Nonsense. Our codes are unbreakable." But even as he said it, doubt crept into Krelnox's mind. The Collective had used the same encryption algorithms for 3 centuries with only minor updates. Why change what had always worked? Aboard the Thunderchild, Captain Novak watched the enemy formation splitting into 3 groups attempting to flank them from different vectors. The ship vibrated slightly as the engines pushed beyond recommended output levels. "They're adapting," Jackson noted, surprise evident in his voice. "That's a non-standard formation for them." "Someone smart is in charge over there," Novak agreed. "Time for Phase 2. Deploy the drones." From the Thunderchild's launch bays, 6 small unmanned craft, no larger than shuttles, emerged, each broadcasting a modified signature nearly identical to the warship itself. As they scattered in different directions, the Collective sensors registered what appeared to be 7 human vessels suddenly materializing where there had been only 1. On the Collective flagship, alarms blared as sensor officers reported in panicked tones. Multiple vessels detected. They'd brought reinforcements. Admiral Krelnox's compound eyes widened. "Impossible. Our outer sensor net would have detected incoming ships. But the evidence was on his screens, 7 distinct human signatures moving at incredible speeds. All vessels, target and disable the human ships," he ordered, his voice betraying uncertainty for the first time in his 30-year career. The Collective battle group dispersed, breaking their carefully maintained formation to pursue individual targets. Energy weapons lanced through space, most hitting nothing but vacuum as the drone decoys executed randomized evasive patterns calculated by Etehina. Novak watched with grim satisfaction as the enemy fleet scattered. Status of the electronic warfare package. Communications Officer Chen nodded. "Successfully embedded in their targeting systems, Captain. Every time they scan us, the virus spreads deeper." "Begin Phase 3, Novak ordered. Lieutenant Zhang initiated the ship's most sophisticated electronic attack yet, a cascading series of false signals that caused Collective targeting systems to register friendly vessels as potential threats. Warning alerts flooded every ship in the battle group simultaneously. On 3 different Collective vessels, automated defense systems activated against perceived incoming fire from Allied ships. Energy shields flared to life, disrupting formation integrity and causing ships to veer from their programmed courses to avoid collisions. Admiral Krelnox watched in horror as his carefully orchestrated battle group disintegrated into chaos. 3 ships collided despite emergency maneuvers, their shields overloading in spectacular flashes of energy. Others fired warning shots at phantom targets or executed emergency jumps to escape what their sensors told them was imminent attack. "All ships, hold position. Disregard automated warnings." He bellowed, but communications were degrading by the second as the human cyber warfare spread through their connected systems. Through this confusion cut the Thunderchild, engines burning fierce blue as it threaded between the disorganized enemy vessels. Not a single effective shot had been fired at them. "Clear space in 20 seconds, Jackson reported, not bothering to hide his amazement. Captain Novak allowed herself a small smile. "Send one last message to the flagship before we're out of range." Chen looked up. "What message, Captain?" "We come in peace. Sorry about the misunderstanding. Let's give them something to think about." As the Thunderchild broke free of the collapsing trap, Admiral Krelnox received the human message. For the first time in his life, the decorated commander experienced an emotion no collective military training had prepared him for: genuine fear. Within the nebula's swirling gases, the Thunderchild maintained minimal power output, appearing to sensors as little more than a metallic asteroid caught in gravitational eddies. Inside, the bridge remained dimly lit to conserve energy, giving the officers' faces an almost ghostly appearance as they gathered around the holographic display. The collective response has exceeded all projections, Science Officer Petel reported, highlighting population centers across multiple star systems. Their civilian networks are saturated with reports of human war fleets spotted in 12 different sectors. "But we're just one ship," Engineer Kazan remarked, shaking his head in disbelief. "Fear is a powerful multiplier," Novak replied, studying the cascading economic data HFY had compiled from intercepted transmissions. "And they've never had to manage it on this scale." Lieutenant Zhang brought up new tactical data. 3 of their core worlds have recalled defense fleets from frontier sectors. They're fortifying their homeworlds against an invasion that doesn't exist. Creating opportunities, Jackson noted, highlighting the suddenly undefended regions. Communications Officer Chen's console chimed softly. "Captain, encrypted transmission from Earth Command. Authentication verified." Novak nodded. "Put it through to my ready room." She turned to her officers. "Continue analysis. I want options when I return." Alone in her small office adjacent to the bridge, Novak activated the secure terminal. Admiral Chandra's weathered face appeared on screen, transmission degraded by the nebula's interference despite the quantum encryption. "Captain Novak, your situation report has caused quite a stir at headquarters." Chandra began without preamble. "First contact with an advanced alien federation, and we managed to terrify them with a single patrol ship." "Not our intention, Admiral," Novak responded, "but they mistook standard scans for weapons targeting. Nevertheless, we find ourselves in an unprecedented situation. The diplomatic corps is scrambling. We're dispatching the UES Olive Branch with Ambassador Chen aboard." Chandra's expression remained grave. "But diplomatic missions take time to prepare, and we can't leave you unsupported in potentially hostile territory." Novak felt a mixture of relief and concern. "Additional military vessels might escalate the situation further, sir." "We've considered that. The Dauntless and Resolute will escort the Olive Branch, but they'll maintain a defensive posture only. Their primary mission is extraction if diplomacy fails." Chandra leaned closer to the camera. "Until they arrive, your mission parameters have changed. Continue to evade capture, but we need comprehensive intelligence on collective capabilities and weaknesses." "Understood, Admiral. We've already gathered significant data on their command structure and communication protocols." "Excellent. One last thing, Captain." Chandra's voice softened slightly. "The Thunderchild's crew has performed admirably in an impossible situation. When you return, commendations will be in order." "If we return, sir," Novak replied with a wry smile. "When, Captain?" "Not if. Humanity hasn't survived this long by accepting unfavorable odds." Chandra out. As the transmission ended, Novak sat back in her chair, considering the Admiral's words. The fate of Earth's first significant interstellar diplomatic contact rested largely on her crew's actions in the coming days. They needed to remain elusive while gathering intelligence, all without further inflaming an already volatile situation. She returned to the bridge where her officers waited expectantly. "We have new orders," she announced, "and a greater responsibility than any of us anticipated when we departed Earth. The collective sees us as demons from their darkest nightmares. Our job is to become ghosts instead, present but untouchable, gathering information that could make the difference between war and peace." Jackson raised an eyebrow. "Ghosts, Captain." "Exactly, Commander. And the most effective haunting is one where the target never knows exactly what they saw." Novak turned to the navigation station. "8 Yina, plot a course for the collective's primary shipyard at Vega Proxima. Let's see how they build those pretty ships of theirs." High Commander Zell Varan paced the length of his command deck, pausing occasionally to study the tactical hologram displaying his fleet's deployment. The finest ships in the collective navy, sleek, powerful vessels that had never known defeat, now arranged in a desperate defensive formation. All because of one human vessel that appeared and disappeared like some phantom from ancient mythology. "Status report," he demanded, mandibles clicking with agitation. His chief intelligence officer approached cautiously. "High Commander, we've analyzed the encountered data from Admiral Kralnox's battle group. The human ship employed technologies we've never encountered, drone vessels capable of perfect signature replication, and electronic warfare that bypassed our encryption as if it didn't exist." "How?" "Our systems are impenetrable." "We're impenetrable, sir. The humans appear to think differently. They found vulnerabilities we never considered possible." The intelligence officer's exoskeleton paled slightly. "There's more. Our behavioral analysis suggests this isn't even their primary warship class. The design indicates it's merely a patrol vessel." Zell Varan froze mid-step. "You're suggesting their actual battle fleet would be significantly more advanced." "It's a logical conclusion, High Commander." For a brief moment, silence enveloped the command deck. The implications were staggering. If a single human patrol ship could cause such havoc, what might an actual invasion force accomplish? "Deploy sensor drones to expand our detection grid," Zell Varan ordered. "I want 3 ships at every navigational choke point. Nothing enters or leaves collective space without my knowledge." Hidden within the radioactive debris of an abandoned mining operation, the Thunderchild monitored the collective's frantic communications. Lieutenant Zhang couldn't help but smile as new deployment orders spread across the enemy fleet. "They're thinning their lines, Captain, trying to cover too much territory with too few ships." Novak nodded. "Classic overextension. They're still thinking in terms of conventional fleet movements." "The diplomatic vessel will be arriving in approximately 12 hours, Communications Officer Chen reported. "They've transmitted their intended coordinates." Jackson frowned at the navigational display. "That's going to be a problem. The collective has established a heavy patrol net around that entire sector." "They're expecting us to rendezvous with reinforcements," Novak mused, "which gives us an opportunity." She turned to Engineer Kazan. "How quickly can we modify our remaining drones to emit transition signatures mimicking faster-than-light emergence?" Kazan considered for a moment. 4 hours, give or take. But they'll only function for about 30 seconds before burning out. That's all we need. A distraction. Novak outlined her plan to the senior staff. The Thunderchild would launch modified drones at multiple points around the collective perimeter, each programmed to emit the energy signature of a ship dropping out of faster-than-light travel. While the collective fleet scrambled to investigate these phantom arrivals, the actual diplomatic vessel could slip through with reduced chance of interception. "It's risky," Jackson cautioned. "If they capture the olive branch before diplomatic protocols can be established." "All first contact scenarios carry risk, Commander," Novak replied. "But the alternative is allowing the collective to prepare unopposed for what they perceive as an inevitable conflict. Sometimes the boldest move is the safest one." As the Thunderchild's crew prepared the drone modifications, HHAGNA updated the tactical display with new intelligence on collective fleet movements. The pattern was clear. High Commander Zelvaran was dispersing his forces to counter a threat that existed primarily in his imagination, creating gaps that a skilled navigator could exploit. Novak watched the enemy icons spreading thinner across the strategic map. They're making the classic mistake of an inexperienced commander. Trying to defend everything means you defend nothing effectively. In 12 hours, humanity's first official diplomatic mission would arrive in collective space. Whether they would be greeted with dialogue or destruction remained to be seen. But thanks to the Thunderchild's operations, they would at least have a fighting chance to establish peace before misunderstandings spiraled into open war. The collective High Council chamber had never witnessed such disorder. Representatives from 6 different species shouted over one another, their translator modules struggling to keep pace with the emotional outbursts. Grand Councillor Velthar, the eldest and most respected of the Varangian leadership caste, struck his ceremonial staff against the floor 3 times. A traditional call for order that went largely ignored. "We cannot negotiate with these humans," shouted Defense Minister Kraz, his chromatophores flashing warning patterns across his skin. Their actions speak clearly of hostile intent. And yet they've caused no casualties despite multiple opportunities, countered Trade Representative Laurel, her delicate sensory fronds waving in agitation. Their message explicitly mentioned peace. "A deception," Kraz insisted. "While we debate, their warship infiltrates our most sensitive installations." On 3 separate holographic displays, civilian news networks broadcast contradictory reports of human vessel sightings in widely separated star systems, all supposedly occurring within minutes of each other. Public panic had reached unprecedented levels. The collective stock exchange had suspended trading after values plummeted 30% in a single day. Religious leaders across multiple worlds proclaimed the arrival of ancient judgment beings from their respective mythologies. In a secure communications center 12 levels below the council chamber, Ambassador Laurel, daughter of the trade representative, studied classified reports with growing concern. As head of the newly formed Human Contact Initiative, she had staked her reputation on finding a diplomatic solution to the crisis. The data suggested the humans possessed technology both more and less advanced than the collectives in puzzling combinations. They prioritized different advancement paths, she murmured to her assistant. Military applications over comfort, adaptability over standardization. Our secure terminal chimed with an encrypted alert. A message fragment, origin unknown, had penetrated the governmental communications blackout. The contents were brief but clear. Asterisk diplomatic vessel arriving coordinates 227.35892 in 6 hours. Opportunity for peaceful resolution. Spread word to moderates only. Asterisk. Laurel's inner eyelids flickered in surprise. The humans had somehow identified her as a potential ally and established communication, despite the collective's best security protocols. The question now was whether to trust this overture or report it as a potential trap. Elsewhere in the collective capital, Admiral Krelnox faced a military tribunal for his failure to capture the human vessel. His once pristine ceremonial armor now bore the removed insignia marks of his former rank. The human ship employed tactics that defied all military doctrine, he explained to the unsympathetic panel of senior officers. They turned our own systems against us, created phantom targets our sensors couldn't distinguish from reality. High Commander Zelvaran leaned forward. Are you suggesting, former Admiral, that a single primitive vessel outsmarted your entire battle group? Krelnox's compound eyes fixed on his superior. With respect, Commander, I suggest we re-examine our definition of primitive. The humans fight like nothing we've encountered in our 1,000-year history. They don't follow the rules of engagement we've established. Because they don't know them, muttered one tribunal member. Or because they choose to ignore them, Krelnox countered. Which is precisely what makes them dangerous. As the tribunal continued its predetermined path toward Krelnox's disgrace, Ambassador Laurel made her decision. She encrypted a message to the small network of moderate officials she trusted, including her mother on the High Council, sharing the coordinates for the human diplomatic vessel's arrival. If the collective government wouldn't pursue peace, perhaps a coalition of concerned officials could establish unofficial contact before military hardliners forced them all into an unnecessary war. Little did she know that Captain Novak was watching this very political fracturing with calculated interest. For in the division of collective leadership lay humanity's best hope for peaceful resolution. The UES Olive Branch hovered motionless at the designated coordinates, its sleek white hull bearing Earth's universal peace symbol. An ancient olive branch encircled by stars. Unlike the militaristic Thunderchild, the diplomatic vessel featured transparent observation domes and minimal weapons systems. Its escorts, the Dauntless and Resolute, maintained position at a respectful distance, weapons powered down but shields raised. Captain Diaz of the Olive Branch addressed her bridge crew with measured calm. Remember, we are making history today. The first official diplomatic contact between humanity and the Varangian collective could shape interstellar relations for centuries. Ambassador Chen nodded in agreement, his weathered face betraying none of the anxiety he surely felt. Our mission is clear. Establish communication, correct misunderstandings, and lay groundwork for peaceful coexistence. Incoming vessels detected, announced the sensor officer. Multiple signatures, counting 23 ships approaching in attack formation. Diaz frowned. That's considerably more than the moderate faction Ambassador Laurel mentioned. Alert the escorts but maintain our position and peaceful posture. Aboard the lead collective vessel, Admiral Krelnox, restored to temporary command for this operation, surveyed the human diplomatic group with mounting dread. Despite his warnings, High Commander Zelvaran had ordered an immediate attack, claiming the diplomatic overture was merely another human deception. The humans have weapons locked and ready, insisted his tactical officer. They're preparing to strike. Krelnox studied the sensor readings personally. That's impossible. Their weapon systems are powered down. But the officer showed him the display, clear targeting locks from the human vessels. What Krelnox couldn't know was that his ship's sensors had been compromised weeks earlier during encounters with the Thunderchild. Athena had planted sophisticated algorithms that now displayed false information, showing hostile intent where none existed. High Command orders immediate attack, his communications officer reported. Authorization code verified. Krelnox hesitated. Something felt wrong. The human vessels remained stationary, making no aggressive moves despite clearly seeing his battle group approach. If they were truly the fearsome warriors his experience suggested, why this passive behavior? "Sir, we must follow orders," his executive officer urged. "The entire battle group awaits your command." Across space, Captain Novak watched the confrontation unfold from the Thunderchild's hidden position within a nearby asteroid field. Athena, analysis of collective communication patterns. Detecting signs of command confusion, the AA reported. Conflicting orders being transmitted across multiple channels. The moderates are trying to stop the attack, Novak realized, but they're being overruled. Captain, Jackson warned, if they attack the diplomatic mission, Earth will have no choice but to respond with full military force. Novak's expression hardened. That's exactly what the hardliners want. Justification for the war they'd been preparing for. She made a swift decision. Battle stations. Prepare to break cover. On the collective flagship, Admiral Krelnox watched in horror as his tactical systems suddenly registered the human escorts, targeting his vessels with unprecedented precision. What he couldn't see was that the Thunderchild had established direct links to his ship's defensive systems, creating the illusion of being targeted without any actual weapons lock. "We're being painted by targeting systems," cried his tactical officer. "All ships, all critical systems." Throughout the battle group, automated defense protocols activated. Ships began evasive maneuvers, breaking formation and disrupting the planned attack vector. Some vessels fired defensive countermeasures against missiles that didn't exist. "Hold fire," Krelnox commanded. "This is exactly what happened before. We're seeing what they want us to see." But it was too late. In the confusion, 3 ships toward the rear of the formation had already launched energy torpedoes at the Olive Branch. 6 months after the fateful encounter that history now called the 23-minute miracle, Captain, now Admiral, Elena Novak stood in the grand observation dome of Unity Station. The massive orbital facility hung in space between Earth and former collective territory, its architecture a blend of human utilitarian design and the flowing aesthetic of Varangian construction. Ambassador Laurel approached, her movement more fluid in the station's carefully calibrated gravity. "Admiral Novak, the final treaty amendments have been ratified by all 6 former collective species." "And Earth's Parliament?" Novak asked, though she already knew the answer. "Unanimous approval." Laurel's sensory fronds rippled with what Novak had learned to recognize as pleased satisfaction. The Galactic Concord is now officially established. They stood together watching shuttles dock and depart from the station's multiple bays. Human engineers worked alongside Varangian technicians, each learning from the other's approach. In one section, a new class of joint exploration vessel was under construction, combining the best elements of both civilizations' technologies. 6 months ago, we were on the brink of interstellar war, Novak mused. Now we're building ships together. The incident changed everything, Laurel acknowledged. When your ship intercepted those torpedoes, she paused, the memory still vivid. Novak nodded, remembering the Thunderchild's desperate maneuver, breaking cover from the asteroid field and placing itself between the incoming torpedoes and the defenseless Olive Branch. Their shields had nearly failed under the impact, but ATGENA's precise calculations had allowed them to absorb the attack without catastrophic damage. "We were fortunate," Novak said simply. It was more than fortune, came a gravelly voice from behind them. Former Admiral Krelnox, now Chief Military Liaison for the Concord, joined them at the viewport. It was the action that proved the humans' true intentions. When you risked your vessel to protect your diplomats, even my most skeptical officers could no longer deny your peaceful aims. The unlikely trio, once enemies, now architects of a new interstellar alliance, watched as the Thunderchild emerged from space dock. The ship bore new markings and modified systems, a blend of human ingenuity and Varangian technical refinement. "She leaves tomorrow," Novak said with unmistakable pride, "leading the first joint exploration mission beyond our combined territories." With Commander Jackson in command, Krelnox noted, "An excellent choice." "And your daughter as first officer," Novak added, nodding to Laurel. "Symbolic and practical." Laurel's chromatophores flushed briefly with parental pride. "They will go farther together than either of our peoples could have gone alone." As the Thunderchild performed a ceremonial flyby of the station, Novak reflected on the strange path that had led to this moment. One accidental encounter, one misunderstood scan, had cascaded into events that transformed two civilizations. "We're holding a small reception for the joint crew," she told her companions. "Nothing formal, just a celebration before departure." "I would be honored," Krelnox replied, "though I still don't understand the human tradition of toasting with liquid refreshments." Novak laughed. "Some cultural differences may take longer to bridge than others." As they turned to leave, Laurel gestured toward the viewport where the Thunderchild now moved away, its engines glowing with the brilliant blue-green light that resulted from combined human and Varangian propulsion technology. "Your philosophers have a concept I find compelling," she said. "The butterfly effect. How one small event can create tremendous change." "Indeed," Novak agreed, "though in our case, it wasn't a butterfly that flapped its wings." "No," Krelnox rumbled with what had become his version of humor. "It was a human warship that appeared on enemy scanners." They shared a moment of understanding before departing to celebrate not just a new mission, but a new era, one born from chaos, but evolving toward a harmony neither civilization could have achieved alone.